The Joe Rogan Experience.
Do you know anything about what's going on in the Pacific Northwest, where there's a pod of orcas that exists primarily on Chinook salmon, and they're starving?
So in fact, it's important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because just yesterday and today, a bunch of different protections are being announced for the southern resident killer whales, which are in the Salish Sea. So it's going to impede sort of vessel. They're really focusing on doing what they can. What's happening there is they've got this Snake River dam system that needs to be. What happens is they put this system in, and the Chinook are just dying. They can't get through. The flow is gone. So
they put the system in a long time ago.
So it's virtually over time has been decimating these populations. No one really knew why, but we're at the point now that we know that these orcas exclusively eat Chinook, and there's just not enough. And whereas they used to be massive ones, now they've got these little tiny ones. And there was the plight of the southern resident killer whales is really. I'm glad that it's getting global attention. I'm sure you're familiar with the mother who lost its calf and mourned for in excess of like 40 days and carried her on her head in a type of vigil. I mean, this captivated the world. I mean, you can't look at an animal capable of such suffering without being acutely aware of the damage you're doing when you separate them from their family and natural environment.
Let me explain the difference. When bears see their cubs dead, they eat them.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
You're talking about something that's insanely emotional. It's a different kind of animal.
And that's the thing that we're learning is the most notable aspect of these animals is their emotional intelligence capacity. I'm afraid of what it is, the depth of which we're going to find out that they're capable of bond, because...
Well, particularly if there's ever some sort of a way of translating communication. If they figure out a way of breaking down those sounds and expressions into something that we can decipher. Right now, I don't think they know much.
I've been underwater with orcas and dolphins, and I've heard them, I can't even tell you the sounds. I mean, they've got a wide array of sounds, but, I could... to the best of my abilities, I could tell you when an animal was excited based on their sounds they were making. Like when our orca Neosha was pushing me underwater to do a rocket ride, which is when you jump off into the air and you do this big majestic jump. You knew it was going to be a good one when she let out this squawk at the bottom of the pool before pumping her tail and launching. You just knew it, man. She was on fire. And then there was other times when you just knew she wasn't into it. And I could know by the sounds. You could really determine underwater sound alone. You could really get to know your animal. Again, I was there 12 years. I mean, I really got to experience a lot of things other people could never really truly understand. Which is really why it's really important that I'm able to speak to these things, because even when it comes to the legislation that is passing. I've had my name mentioned in the House of Commons. I mean, this is a national stage. I've had it mentioned in the Senate. I mean, people care about what is coming up. Just a few days ago, a Niagara MP. Actually, this would be a great video if you could pull it up. It'll be on my Twitter. It's one of the things I retweeted. But the local MP, he bashes marine land. I mean, that is a thing of absolute beauty. I'm glad that I'm able to talk and explain to people what it is that my experience has shown me and the things that I know. Because if people know, they'll do better.
Problem with that video is if we play that video, it gets claimed.
Oh, really? It's a House of Commons video. It's public.
It's a government thing. Those usually are okay, but
it's okay.
I don't know if it's up to you.
Is it from a news source?
Oh, but you know what? The group that put it up,
they might have
because
it.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. If you go to my Twitter and you check it, it's something to marvel. It's beautiful.
You have to be really careful with YouTube.
I understand.
We've had a shitload of problems. Niagara region.
Well, I can assure
MP
you this: Animal Justice will have no problem with you doing this. I'm good friends with
that's okay.
Camille Labchuk.
But we'll just tell people how to get to it. But just put that back up so I can read that.
Sorry.
It says marine land, an unfortunate place with horrible conditions. Okay.
Yeah, he's. I mean, this is a member of Parliament. This is this is the big stage right here, and he's finally. And it took a long time for people, anyone in public policy, to ever wade into this subject. Now we got people outright saying like this place is a hole. I mean, wow, how far we've come in the last 6.5 years.
The world is changing, my friend.
It's quickly.
Changing whether people like it or not. And this is one that I think it's unavoidable. This discussion and this resolution, this has to be, we have to come to grips with what that is. It's just, It's just all kinds of wrong, man. It's all kinds of wrong. And the fact that they're still suing you after all these fucking years.
As if they think it's working, as if it's serving them any purpose. And here I am again on the fucking JRE. Like, are you kidding me, dudes? You don't even know the favor you're doing me. You don't even know what you've done. Like, come on. What are you? What do you want to accomplish? What have you failed in accomplishing? And what do you think you're going to accomplish by continuing? I mean,
Jamie,
this is the virtual definition of insanity.
It's not a good move. Jamie, who was it that was on the podcast that was explaining the processes in place of reintroduction into the wild? They were going to have stages and nets and stuff like that, and these big outdoor areas where they could transmit dolphins and orcas to. Who was that? Do you remember? Too many goddamn conversations.
Was that me?
Was it you?
We spoke of the Whale Sanctuary Project. I mean, that would be that's essentially the basis of it and the goal.
Maybe it was you. Was it discussing how there's places where they're going to have like intermediate steps?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, maybe you guys expanded on it with someone else, but no, that is the basis of this project. I mean, the good news is the Whale Sanctuary Project. I mean, this thing is going to happen. It is the future. They're well into the process of finding a site. Considerations are being made for a Washington State site, a Vancouver site, but it appears as though they're settled on maybe Nova Scotia. The community there at large is looking to work with them. That's wonderful news. And I'll tell you something, Joe. Once this law gets royal ascension, becomes law, what happens is Marineland is not able to export the animals unless the minister of the DFO, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, concurs that it's in the animal's best interests. Well, if such a site exists and Marineland is keen on getting rid of their animals, we'll have a place for them. I told you last time I was here that my dream is to save whales. This might happen. Additionally, if there's a real concerted effort, a real effort to rescue those animals in Russia, I may very well be a part of that team. So where 6.5 years ago, I was speaking of a crazy dream where there was no blueprint, there was no foundation. I sort of threw myself into the universe and said, I'm just going to hang my hat on a dream. I'm watching in real time as it's materializing. That's a hell of a perspective. Humbling.
That is amazing. This thing that we were talking about with the Pacific Northwest, it's the resident population that has an issue because they only eat Chinook salmon. But then isn't there another pod that comes through?
There's transients, and they're thriving because they eat everything. The transients they're giving birth. They're doing quite well.
They eat marine animals.
It's correct.
Yeah,
in fact, while I was there
and stuff.
When I was there, the guy that was with us literally said, "Can you smell that?" I'm like, "No, what is that?" She's like, "Smell that sort of oily, weird." She's like, "A seal is getting eaten somewhere." She could smell it. Next thing we know, we saw the activity, the dorsals and everything. And yeah, sure as shit, there's a pot
of a certain smell.
She could smell that the seal was being eaten.
Why can't they teach these smart whales to fucking eat what their friends are eating? Why do they have to be rude? What it is, it's like they won't eat Chinese food. Fuck Chinese food. Bro, you're starving to death. No, I want a burger.
It's a rare occasion, but there is something called a super pod, where it's actually a congregation of all the different families of orcas into this event where they congregate, and it's a big social event. And there's a conference that happens every 2 years in Washington State called Super Pod, which is organized by a good friend of mine, Jeff Ventry. It's an amazing event. I look forward to being there again and speaking. I get to another place for me to speak and roam about with experts and whatnot and learn a great deal of things. But we were on the cusp of that almost happening, because the boats are radioing to each other like, okay, well, we've got a family going this, we got a family going this. It's like, wait a sec, there's 3 families going in the same direction. It's like there's gonna be a crossing of paths, and this is where the boaters get real excited, either at the prospect of a super pod of sorts or conflict. Or
Do they have conflict? They fight?
Yeah, they could be, but I mean, for the most part, it's verbal. They just tell you, like, stay away from me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I imagine their messages are quite clear. And you've got a 15,000-pound bull male orca giving you the bird. Yeah, you're going to listen.
Fuck yeah.
Especially
their
transient.
mouths, man.
Oh, yeah.
When you see their mouths wide open and see their teeth, you're like, what the fuck are you? Why don't they start eating mammals? And I wonder if anybody's ever studied the difference in the behavior between the transient pods that eat the marine mammals versus the behavior of the ones that only exist on salmon. Like maybe they have a different, maybe they're like, you know, like Avatar, like there's different kinds of people up there.
My go-to source is Ingrid Visser. She is a top. She's the woman in New Zealand that swims with orcas, rescues orcas. I mean, she is atop the global spectrum of wild orcas scientists. She'd be the one to talk to about that. I mean, you want to talk about a fascinating person to talk to. Holy shit, the wealth of knowledge she has, and she is she's a very passionate advocate, and I'm very proud to have done some very
that's dope
good work with her. So
I'd love to talk to her.
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
I want to
have her on the show, dude.
Yeah, I would love to talk to her. I'm so curious about those things. I wonder
she
if
would
she
blow your
probably
mind.
know what if there was a difference, if at all, in behavior.
If you were to invite her on the podcast, she would get on the next flight from New Zealand and come here. I can assure you that. So,
Well,
if there's
don't
ever any
speak
interest
for
in the
her,
capacity,
bro.
you know what?
I like being home. Fuck you.
I'll tell you what.
Phil
I think
Demers.
she may have
Put that
actually
out
told
in the
me
universe.
that. Maybe she told me that.
Yeah. They're amazing animals. I've always said that. I mean, and this is coming from a self-admitted Bigfoot dork. I'm a Bigfoot dork. I really wish Bigfoot was a real thing.
Sure.
But if Bigfoot was a real thing, it wouldn't be nearly as cool as an orca.
No.
Like if we found some big, stupid, stinky ape that's been hiding from people forever, and be like, wow, that's cool. But is it much cooler than a chimp or a gorilla? What? Just because it's bigger? No. What an orca is really cool. That is a super intelligent super killer that eats sharks.
Stealth killing machine. That has great whites tucking tail and running.
Just fuck up a great white shark like it has no business being in the ocean.
They're the
with it.
perfect weapon in their world. I mean, there's nothing that touches them. They're literally at zero risk. They have no predators. I mean, they're just too damn strong and too damn smart and coordinated. They do their kills as teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally up against an army out there. Try to be a 500-pound seal, and that would be a big seal.
An army of 13,000-pound killer whales.
Who sort of enjoy playing with you a little bit before you die. I mean, I'll interpret it as play, but more often than not, it's training the young ones on how to kill and stuff. It could be a brutal thing. I mean, I don't love watching it personally because I've worked with seals as well. I mean,
I take Team Orca all day.
Yeah, me too. You're not getting great odds, but put the house on it and you'll get some returns.
One of the
win
most
every time.
Amazing videos I ever saw was an orca with a beached seal. The seal, he had bitten it and tossed it through the air, and the seal had made its way to the shore, and it was actually on the land just with a little bit of water, and the orca beached itself, grabbed a hold of the seal, and just starts smashing it in the water there, and you see the water just flood red with blood, and then it hops back and wiggles itself back into the water and swims away, and you're like, holy fuck.
That crazy.
Holy fuck.
Yeah,
These
there it
things
is.
would beach themselves.
That thing's 15,000 pounds.
It's
Look
so
at the beast
big.
that is.
Now, do they ever get stuck?
Yeah, they do. They do in New Zealand. In fact, that's where Ingrid's work is really special. That she's, dude. This is a crazy story. I have a friend that I grew up with, Matt Harrison. He went on to be real involved in the army. He's like decades into the army now. He was on a training mission in New Zealand. They were doing this training on a beach, and didn't they get called to go perform an orca rescue? He's just like, oh, what? So now he's running, and now they've got shovels. They're trying to figure this thing out. And now Ingrid shows up as she's the person to call. And now there's a photograph. I'm waking up in the morning to a photograph of Ingrid at this end of an orca, and my friend Matt Harris from the same place as me, a little town in Welland, at the other end of the orca. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I got to reunite the two of them back in Niagara Falls in the summer because Ingrid had come down again. And
Oh my God.
dude, these are blessings that I couldn't have even ever imagined. And yet here he was, and and he'd be the first to tell you when he came back, it changed his world. It changed him. Never again. Marineland, done. Whereas before it might have been, it wasn't necessarily the case. He was part of this rescue. He's a changed man. Like now he's fascinated with orcas like you can't imagine. He got the bug now.